This society will always be as a drunken of the wine. Controlling all the senses for understanding great divine. I will send fire to this land.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to the law class. This is I Am Fit Man Going God's Way. Shalom, peace, and blessings. Thank you for allowing me into your living room on this Sabbath day, this beautiful Sabbath day. Brother Iron One, how we doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, Elder. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. All praise to the Most High God. You know, this is like, I think, this like, I don't know if it's been weird in your end, but the weather has been a little weird, a lot of cloudy. And I think this weekend is going to be kind of rainy and cloudy and sunny. I think Monday's going to be nice. So, I got a 4-day weekend, so I just want to relax and enjoy it, from the plantation.
Good.
But, today's conversation and lesson is going to be the Leviticus. We're going over the 5 books of Moses. I think we covered the book of Exodus 2 weeks ago. We're going to try to cover the entire thing, the entire book of Leviticus today, but only time will tell. Leviticus, comes from the word Levi, the priest. Leviticus, is looking at the law from the priestly perspective. A lot of what is written, we're going to maybe skip through in regards to the sacrifice because there is, let me just put this right here. There is several scriptures specifically dealing with the sacrifice. So what I want to do is kind of skip through it. And I want to, let me just put this up here real quick for the majority of the people could see it as well, or I could see it for myself. Okay. So we're going to start at chapter 1, verse 1, but we're going to skip, we're going to skim through chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 4 and 5 we're going to touch a little bit on, and then we're going to jump into, maybe 7, and then into other areas where they go into more moral laws. I'm going to show a little bit of PowerPoint in regards to giving people a visual. And, if anybody has any questions, they could comment online. I see you, Brother Kashi is there, Brother Zedekiah, Brother Anton, Shalom, brothers. Thank you for allowing us to go into your living room. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 1, verse 1. We're going to unpack Leviticus. Leviticus goes into a lot of laws that you can only find there. You can find some of it in Deuteronomy, but I believe this is the first time it brings the dietary laws, also the beard and the hair and how you should wear it. We're going to go into that. So we're going to touch on that today. So Leviticus chapter 1, verse 1, when you're ready, brother.
All right. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 1, verse 1. And the Most High called unto Moses, and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto the Most High, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Most High. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for.
So,
and he
I just noticed every time I read the scriptures, I usually pick up something. So it says that the offering must be a volunteer thing, right?
Mm.
But then when you read the entire thing, is telling you this is how you accept the sacrifice.
Mm.
So the person who is doing it, the way I kind of get that is you cannot force someone to do it.
Mm.
They have to be willing to do it.
Mm.
Right? So, usually it's the firstborn of the family, of the household. He's usually the one that is, bring forth the sacrifice representing his family. He has to be wanting to do it. He cannot grudgingly do it.
Mm.
That's how I get that from, right? And it goes back to the scriptures, because when you read the law, it brings in the epistle in a much higher light. That's why Paul says, do not give grudgingly, right? So maybe this law is what Paul was addressing when he said, when you give your offering, your alms, give it, do not do it grudgingly. He was not bringing something new. He was reminding them that someone must do this willfully. Matter of fact, let's go into that the Strong's. What chapter and verse you was reading?
Leviticus 1
and 3 or?
Okay, yep, 3.
3.
Of his
okay.
own voluntary will. Okay.
Voluntary. So let's go to the word voluntary. See what that word means.
Okay.
Voluntary.
Right. So the word voluntary is rason, and it means pleasure, delight, favor, goodwill, acceptance, will, desire, pleasure, self-will. Okay, so delight.
Right. It means you got to do it. You can't do it grudgingly. Right. That's why this is scripture, I believe, that says when you give it, when you give to the Most High, you got to give it cheerfully. I think that's the scripture.
A cheerful giver.
Yeah, a cheerful giver.
Okay.
Right. I think that is actually what.
2 Corinthians 9.
Right.
Okay.
Read that if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. 2 Corinthians 9 and 6, I believe. Okay.
2 Corinthians. Let me go there.
9.
Right. This is when Paul was upset that they were not taking care of him financially, the church. That you must give, it is written, this, given, God's able. I'll get it. Let's go back and I'll find it.
Okay.
Or do you have it?
Yeah, so I think it says, this is the Net Bible. Each one of you should give just as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion. Okay, I'm sorry. I was in verse 1. I was in chapter 1. I'm sorry. So 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6 says,
There you go. Yeah.
But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap bountifully. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for the Most High loveth a cheerful giver.
There you go. So if you look at the word voluntarily, that is, it gives the essence of the term, but it's when you read the Strong's, it gives you a better understanding. You got to want to do it. You cannot do it under duress. You cannot do it under fear. You cannot do it because of duty. You got to come in and do it because you want to do it. So, and this is the reason why when you go into the Torah and why, the 613 laws, although I don't think there's that many laws because the guy combined the Talmud and the Torah. It was so many because you break it down to the most minute area. Right. So not only you when you give your alms and offerings, you it is a sin if you do it grudgingly.
Right, right. Yeah, some of them I think he references like 3 times and
Yeah.
to get different commands,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay.
But this is the origin of the thought of the Hebrew. That's why I want to unpack the these laws, so that when we go into the epistles, it will bring it to light. It will bring it to a much understanding.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
let's continue. So let's go to chapter 2. I think goes into. Let's see here. Leviticus chapter 2 goes into the law of grain offering. Okay, we could skip that. The law of peace offering, we could skip that. And there was something on the chapter 4. So okay.
I wanted to touch there too.
Yeah.
Chapter 4.
Yeah. So let's go to chapter 4.
Okay.
And let's talk, because there's some things we could go and touch on. So we're going to go to chapter 4, verse 1, because this is, a lot of people need to understand that the sacrifice were limited in regards of what could you be forgiven for. And the majority of them were sins that you did through ignorance. Right? So we're going to go, so let's go to chapter 4 real quick, and let's start at verse 1.
Okay. And Elder, and could we, you'll catch here in this chapter that there are different sacrifices for common people, and then more consequential sacrifices for leaders and rulers, more costly. So it really shows when James was saying, brethren, seek not to be masters, knowing we have the greater condemnation. You see the common people, they would do one sacrifice for them all, but the rulers, they had to sacrifice whatever it was, and cost in that time. I believe it was 5 times more valuable if it was a kid of the goats. And if the normal people, maybe it was like doves at some points, and then maybe one bullock for all of them.
Okay.
A leader or a ruler, they were dealing with a kid of the goats without blemish. And so comparing that to today, you would be comparing like $20 to $100.
Right. Because yes, and you have and I want you to point that out when we're ready. But also that goes to show you, all these terms that we hear: too much is given, much is required. I wonder if all these things are coming back from this particular culture. Much is given, much is required. So yes, if you are a leader, you're expected to give more, or they put more emphasis on your responsibility, because you're supposed to be an example for the rest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let's touch on this.
Yes, sir. Okay. This is Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of the Most High,
I'm sorry. I'm sure. Where are you? I don't know because I want to follow everybody else.
Okay, this is chapter 4, verse 2.
Verse 2. Okay, that'd be good. Okay, I'm there. Okay.
All right. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of the Most High, concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin which he has sinned a young bullock without blemish unto the Most High for a sin offering. And he shall bring the bullock unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Most High, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head, and kill the bullock before the Most High. And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood, and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood, and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before the Most High, before the veil of the sanctuary. And the priest shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of sweet incense before the Most High, which is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour all the blood of the bullock at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering. which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall take off from it all the fat of the bullock for the sin offering, the fat that covereth the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the calf above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away, as it was taken off from the bullock of the sacrifice of peace offerings, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar of the burnt offering. And the skin of the bullock, and all his flesh, with his head, and with his legs, and his inwards, and his dung.
Right. So
Even
that, yeah. So that was the sacrifice, right? Let's skip down. Anything you want to touch, or I know you want to make the is this chapter touch on the subject you want to touch on?
Yes, the chapter does.
Okay. So where you want to go next?
I think 13.
13
is right.
Okay. All right, so let's go there.
Okay. All right. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of the Most High, concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty, when the sin which they have sinned against it is known, then the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring him before the tabernacle of the congregation. And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands upon the head of the bullock before the Most High, and the bullock shall be killed before the Most High. And the priest shall dip his finger in some of the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before the Most High, even before the veil. And he shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar, which is before the Most High, that is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour out all the blood at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So I'll jump down to verse 22. When a ruler has sinned and done somewhat through ignorance against any of the commandments of the Most High his power, concerning things which should not be done, and is guilty, or if his sin wherein he has sinned come to his knowledge, he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats. Okay. I was in verse 23. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Or if his sin wherein he has sinned come to his knowledge, he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a male without blemish. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of the goat and kill it in the place where they kill the burnt offering before the Most High. It is a sin offering. Okay, and here we go. This is the point. Jumping down to verse 27. And if any one of the common people sin through ignorance, while he doeth somewhat against any of the commandments of the Most High, concerning things which ought not to be done, and be guilty, or if his sin which he has sinned come to his knowledge, then he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he has sinned. So the difference as far as the common people,
yeah,
and then the priest or the rulers, kings, you would see there was a female without blemish,
right,
which was it held a value, but the kid of the goats, the males without blemish, they would replenish a man's cattle. So it was about 5 times more expensive.
Yeah.
And what it brought to mind was in James when he spoke to the congregation, and he's saying, brethren, seek not to be many masters, knowing we have the greater condemnation. Right. And so that's sometimes taken to mean maybe judgment before the Most High, last days. But here, where we had an example where the Most High was just preparing us as a people,
yeah,
putting the mind of leaders to where you should, it's more grave if you make mistakes, take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things that would embed that mindset of leadership, knowing it's a greater cost to pay.
Right.
When you err. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that brings a greater understanding to the scripture. It says, you know, or shepherd, you know, shepherd lead by example, right? They lead the flock. Christ went first and showed them, come follow me. And what I did, you do. So it's the same scenario And not only that, what I do, you do, but if I fall off or come short, I have a greater responsibility to redeem myself even than the common folks, because I am a shepherd. I am an example.
Yes, sir.
So it goes back to that. So let's continue. Anything else you want to touch on that in particular? On
No, sir.
Leviticus? Okay, so let's go to chapter 5. Let me see what that covers.
Sure.
The law. Okay, let's go to chapter 5, verse 1.
Okay.
So
Okay.
even sinning to ignorance, it was something that, most people, when they do a mistake, they usually just dismiss it as a mistake. But I think this exercise was there to program us to be mindful of a mistake, because we even have to pay a penalty for our mistakes. These days, when people do something, a mistake, I'm sorry, man. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't, I didn't know. It wasn't my fault, right? They just, they don't take any responsibility. But I think with these laws about the sins of ignorance, God said you still have to bring forth a dove or something. Usually those sins was a little less expensive, if you want to use those words, because a he goat versus a female goat, or a sheep or lamb, a dove. These were all different value. Had different value, right? But you still show. You have to present something even when you do something that wasn't your fault, even to ignorance. Ignorance, you didn't know, right? So let's touch on this a little bit.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness, whether he hath seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Or if a soul touch any unclean thing, whether it be a carcass of an unclean beast, or a carcass of an unclean cattle, or the carcass of unclean creeping things, and if it be hidden from him, he also shall be unclean and guilty. Or if he touch the uncleanliness of a man, whatsoever uncleanliness it be, that a man shall be defiled withal, and it be hid from him, when he knoweth of it, then he shall be guilty.
Right. So this is giving you an example of you doing something through a mistake. You didn't know, right? It was a dead body. It was a carcass. You touched it. You didn't know it was there. Although it wasn't technically your fault, and it wasn't. I think this exercise is for us not to get comfortable with making mistakes, because even mistakes are costly.
Right.
That's where that term costly mistakes maybe comes from this. That's a costly mistake, right? So let's continue reading.
Okay. Verse 4. Or if a soul swear, pronouncing with his lips to do evil, or to do good, whatsoever it be that a man shall pronounce with an oath, and it be hid from him, when he knoweth of it, then he shall be guilty in one of these. And it shall be, when he shall be guilty in one of these things, that he shall confess that he hath sinned in that thing. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Most High for a sin which he hath sinned, a female from the flock, a lamb, or a kid of the goats, for a sin offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him concerning his sin. And if he be not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring for his trespass which he hath committed 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons unto the Most High, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And he shall bring them unto the priest, who shall offer that which is for the sin offering first, and wring off his head from his neck, but shall not divide it asunder. And he shall sprinkle of the blood of the sin offering upon the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be wrung out at the bottom of the altar. It is a sin offering.
Right. So
and he,
they view that as, I think it was an exercise of because mistakes could be costly even if it was not your fault. So maybe this will create a careful attitude towards your actions to make sure so you will act. You know, there is a law. I remember when I was like, I was young. I was like maybe 17 or 18, maybe 19. I know I was young. I got a ticket in the subway. You know, I don't know if in New York there's a lot of underground subway. And then there was the platform. I was in the platform, but I was at the end of the platform. So at the end of the platform, a police officer called me and said, "Hey, what you doing?" He's like, "Waiting for the train, what have you." He said, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here," and he gave me a ticket. I said, "Well, there's no signs here because the sign, no trespassing." I thought it meant don't trespass beyond the platform. Don't go into the train tracks, right? So I fought it. I went to, you go to see a clerk and all that, yada, yada, yada. And I still had to pay the ticket because the clerk or the judge says that is a law. And ignorance of the law is not a defense for it. I didn't know. I was like, okay, I didn't know. That's weird. I thought if I didn't know, how is it my fault?
Right.
So it's your responsibility to know the law, right?
Yeah.
So ignorance of the law is not a defense against it or something like that. He paraphrases. I wonder that they got that from the Bible, obviously, right? If that's why you got to learn the law. You got to read the fine print. You got to, just because you're ignorant doesn't necessarily exempt you from not knowing the law. So maybe this is the energy behind that. Why the Most High put this there to make sure that, last week, I spent, $300-400 on a mistake. I don't want to spend. I don't want to spend that again. So let me make sure I ask questions. Is this illegal? Well, okay, we don't know. Okay, well, let's wait under the Shabbat. Ask the priest on the law class, right, on the Shabbat. It is legal, and then we can move forward. So it was more like maybe it was more designed to keep us cautious. Before we So let's continue. Let me see. Guilt offering. Let me see if there's anything here. If a soul commits a sin. All right, let's go into chapter 6.
Okay.
See what that touches. If it touches the same thing, or verse 2. You can start at verse 2.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 6, verse 2. If a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Most High, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor.
Now let me stop there.
Okay.
A lot of people, when they read the scripture, certain things go over their head. This scripture is telling you that if you lie against your brother, you're sinning or trespassing against God himself. And this is unique to the laws of God. Okay. Because in every other culture, whether it be the Hammurabi Code or whatever it will be the Egyptian negative 32 negative confessions or whatever moral scenario, they separate the offense of their gods, how you could offend their gods, and then how do you trespass against a human being or a fellow citizen. They don't combine those two. So what is unique about the Torah is that when you go against your fellow citizen of your countrymen, you're violating the laws of God as well, or you're violating you're sinning against him. And that's unique within the Hebrew culture. You don't find that in anywhere else. So read that again for you to understand. So the sin was that you lied to your brother, and that is a sin against God.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Let's read.
Okay. If a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Most High, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor.
Right. So when you go into other translation, the word "and," because the word there could be by. So if you go into other translation, it says, if a soul sin and commits a trespass against the Lord, by lying unto his neighbor. That's the action. When you lie to your neighbor, you are trespassing against the Most High God.
Okay.
Not only him. Right? So when people get caught up with this thing that when you forget, you lie on a brother, or you transgress against a brother, you think you're only doing that to that brother. You're doing that to God. You're violating God's commandments, and you're transgression against Him. So in your mind, you're like, oh, I have to make it right with this person. You do, but you also have to make it right with God. That makes sense? Like you have to say, hey, God, listen, I violated one of your laws, or what you did. And most gods in the pagan world is like, what you did to me. What sacrifice you didn't do, and you didn't, more, the God of the Hebrew, he was like, oh, you violated one of my little ones. You do it unto me. You see where these laws are coming from, or these statements?
Yes, sir.
Because it's established already. It's already established in the Torah. So it's not a foreign thing. It's not everything that Christ said, or anything you hear of the epistle, it was nothing unique or something that these Hebrews haven't heard before. They just rewording it and bringing the more spiritual aspect to it. I just wanted to touch on that. So anything you want to add?
Yes, because it highlights when it was said, and if you bring your gift unto the altar, but you've wronged your brother, he's saying, no, you can't go around that, because that is a sin to the Most High. So it's like pushing your brother to the side and saying, okay, well, we had an issue, but I'm still going to continue with my spiritual practice, dealing with the Most High. And it's saying, nah, take that, right? Go be reconciled to him, because that's how you deal with me, because that is a sin against me. But so you can't go around that. It's all the same. So sinning against your brother is sinning against me. You can't bring the gift to the altar. Go handle that, and then you can come deal with me.
Exactly, because your sacrifice will be defiled.
Yeah,
he won't accept it,
right?
Because it's been defiled. So all that is going back to what the scriptures is bringing out. Absolutely. So let's continue.
Okay, verse 3. Or have found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and sweareth falsely, and any of all these that a man doeth, sinning therein, then it shall be, because he hath sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away, or the thing which he hath deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found, or all that about which he hath sworn falsely. He shall even restore it in the principal, and shall add the fifth part more thereto, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth in the day of his trespass offering. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Most High, a ram without blemish out of the flock, with thy estimation, for a trespass offering unto the priest. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Most High, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he hath done in trespassing therein.
So theft, taking property from other people, lying, it was a sin that was redeemable. Thank God, right? You will not be put to death, right? So this would also go into, if you look at it from this perspective, even if you are receiving something from someone, hey, hold this for me, right? And that thing belongs to someone else, or that thing was stolen, right? Because even the law that if you receive stolen property is against the law. All this goes back to the Torah.
Right.
You're not allowed to receive things that is stolen and hit stuff that someone else stole from somebody else. So it will put you in a position you have to be very careful when you in a scenario that you're in somebody's house, you break something, right? you give somebody misinformation by mistake,
Right.
right? So all these things are important. That's why the bottom line is living a righteous, square, upfront life. No deception. Everything is clear. Everything is above board. Nothing underhanded.
Right.
Even remotely. Right. So,
Right.
So I think that's the spirit of this law.
Okay. And Elder,
yeah.
I want to say, because if you remember when we were in Deuteronomy, I think because you mentioned breaking something, so I know there were certain points in time where there was an agreement. If something wasn't done on purpose or deceitfully, then it says, then he shall not make it good. But
Right.
when this is saying, if a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Most High, and it brings up all the things violently took away, deceitfully gotten, or which was delivered to keep, in a person's care,
Yeah.
then it says he shall restore it, and the principle of it. Okay, you give that back to the person, and then you add a fifth part more there too, which is, I believe, 20% interest, right? And give it unto him whom it pertaineth in the day of the trespass offering.
Yeah.
So if you remember when Christ said, you leave your gift on the altar, then go be restored unto your brother, right? So you take it to him plus 20%, and then it says, and he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Most High. Then after that, a ram without blemish out of the flock with thy estimation. So with thy estimation, I'm gonna see what that. Do you know what that means?
Let's go into that. Let's go into that right now. We're gonna, we're unpacking this. What chapter and verse you in?
That's Leviticus 6.
Okay, let me put the Strongs.
And 6.
Let's unpack this. Because you always got to read these laws, because you always miss something. The Most High always reveal a new angle, something you read. What verse you in, sir?
Leviticus 6 and 6.
Okay. Without blemish. Okay. This is order, row, estimate, things that are set in order. Okay. All right.
Valuation, taxation. Okay.
Let me see what the. Do you have the? Let me get it real quick. And folks, if it's brothers only, right? Sisters can learn in silence. You're in church. If you something you see that we don't see, please comment below and let us know for your thoughts. Because we're having a conversation here, right? Because sometimes the King James. Let me do a comparison. Okay. A comparison of the versions. Let me see. And let them take to the Lord the offering for the wrongdoing, giving to the priest for the offering, and male sheep from the flock without any mark. I think the word there is wrongdoing. Let me see. Let me see. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and he shall be forgiven for the one of all the things which he did in his trespass. Yeah, I think that word there.
Okay.
Estimation.
So, I think it means equal value.
Right. Equal value. Equal estimate. Things that are set in order. Price. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're an assessment of its value as a restitution offering to the priest.
Right.
So an unblemished ram, so no blemish, but it has to be of an equal value, estimation, right? Okay. So I believe, a valuable ram.
It cannot. You can't. You got to, because a lot of it is what you broke. You got to fix it. It's like you can't give something of lesser value to if it's all about justice, proper justice, right?
Mm.
So let's see here.
Okay.
And command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the law of the burnt offering. Okay. So chapter 6. Let's go to chapter 7. The priest part of offering. Let me see. And likewise in the law, transfer this in the place where the. Okay. So this is going into. It must be killed in one place. The blood. Let's go there because this goes back into. I think I read it that you can only kill the animal where the Most High commanded, or spill the blood in the altar. You can't spill it nowhere else. And I think it goes back to Genesis chapter 9 or 9, I think, when the Most High said that every blood would I require of every man and beast. So that goes back. So let's touch on that real quick. We're in chapter 7 of Leviticus.
Okay. The book of Leviticus, chapter 7, verse 1. Likewise, this is the law of the trespass offering. It is most holy. And the place where they kill the burnt offering shall they kill the trespass offering. And the blood thereof shall he sprinkle round about upon the altar. And he shall offer of it all the fat thereof, the rump, and the fat that covereth the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the calf that is above the liver, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar, for an offering made by fire unto the Most High. It is a trespass offering. Every male among the priests shall eat thereof. It shall be eaten in the holy place. It is most holy. As the sin offering is, so is the trespass offering. There is one law for them. The priest that maketh atonement therewith shall have it. And the priest that offereth any man's burnt offerings, even the priest shall have to himself the skin of the burnt offering which he hath offered, and all the meat offering that is baken in the oven, and all that is dressed in the frying pan, and the pan shall be the priest that offered. And every meat offering mingled with oil and dry shall all the sons of Aaron have, one as much as another. And this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he shall offer unto the Lord. If he offer it for thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unleavened cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and cakes mingled with oil of fine flour fried.
Okay.
Besides,
let me go ahead. Hold on 2 seconds. I want to make sure I'm in the right place because I want to.
Okay.
I know it mentions about the all blood is required. Let's see here. Congregation of Aaron and his son and the bullock and the gather together the congregation. Okay, so chapter 8 goes into the breastplate and put in the meat tree. We can skip that. Let's go to chapter 9. Aaron offers sacrifice and the 8th day. Yeah, let's go to chapter 9 unless you want to touch something else.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention on this sacrifice, and I've read that you know the priests were sustained by the tithes, and the significance of this is that when the priests had daughters that married men from other tribes, they could never eat in their father's home again,
Right.
because it was, you know, the tithe. And so even just to go visit your father, it was that important unto the Most High that was set apart, that they were no longer to eat from the table of the priest.
Of the priest, because of, it was like the Levites were, the Israelites, the Levites were set apart among people that were set apart. They were set apart, set apart. They were supposed to be the holies of the holies because they're supposed to represent that. So it was so separate that, and I wonder if the Most High set it up that way, since the Levites are the law enforcer. The Most High created a culture within the children of Israel that the Levites would not intermingle with the other tribes, so that they don't get bias, right? oh, I know Gabar. I know that's, you know, you barely see these people. You only see these people when they are among you, presenting the sacrifice, business only.
Yeah, business only. Right.
There was no hanging out. There's no back and forth. I think maybe this sounds like total separation. You know, that even the food that they eat, that was offered to the Levites, only the Levites could eat. Even someone who's been married to a non-Levi, a non-priest family, cannot even partake anymore.
Right.
It was that no connection, right? It's all separation. And that's the reason why I believe that lawmakers, there has to be certain things that they cannot partake in with the common folks, business, you know, lobbyists, you know, investment in companies. It's gonna bring some form of biasness, and these elected officials, they're allowed to go and become, you know, rich. What's the House Speaker, Pelosi? Her and her husband is gotten, they're almost billionaire through investment, and you don't think that they have an inside scoop and pass the laws to fit their narrative?
Right.
You know, so there's something there that you have to kind of separate yourself. And there's a balance, right? Because you got to be among the people, but you got to be, you know, in the mindset that next week you may be judging a matter within the people you just was hanging out with.
Right.
There has to be a balance there.
That's what I get from these scriptures. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the Supreme Court justices is going through it now for not disclosing things, because I guess every year you do have to disclose the investments if you've received anything. Yeah. And so they have issues with that as well. And one of the points on that with the priest is that when people are offering it, they're offering it on behalf of their sins. So you stand instead of the Most High, and the Most High says, okay, well, because you are committed yourself and your families to my office, I'll pay you for that service because you don't have an inheritance amongst the people. Right. But by keeping it so strict and set apart, it would prevent the priest from being like overtaken with covetousness, or, you know, wanting to increase. So if anybody was able to just come eat, you might want to, like, you know, a guy today, you might want to marry a woman from a successful family so you can benefit from that. But the Most High kept it entirely apart, knowing that in Malachi, you know, when he says, would a man rob God, or would people pervert my offerings, like we seen happen later on, which caused the children of Israel to desire kings, he put all the mandates in place so it wouldn't happen, even though it still did. But it would have us thinking this way, to where we see, like, what if a person is to judge the people, if a person is to rule the people, you have to avoid like any potential bribes, corruption. Right. You know, it has to be strict adherence to such laws.
Exactly. And this is where the Torah contributed to society, because a lot of these societies established their constitution using these Torahs. And this, you know, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that, you know, what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, that they are edging this war, which is dangerous. And I believe now there is a general in Russia that's going against Putin, and there is an internal fight. And what my friend was telling me is that from his studies and his, you know, research, is that the powers that be, when they realize that the Constitution is too much embedded into these biblical principles, they have to get rid of the Constitution. Because if Russia and America goes to war, and Russia's conservative, America has the Constitution, those two societies collapse, then the powers that be could bring like a China type of government that the government tells you what to do. The government gives you the rights. You don't got these, God-given rights, right? So what he said, which is his theory, which is scary, is that that's what they want. They want America to go to war with Russia, to weaken America, because they eventually want to get rid of the Constitution, because the Constitution is too close to the Bible. It's too close to biblical principles. So that's what they want. I hope he's wrong. I hope, he's wrong, but that's what I'm hearing. People are saying that that's what, got Joe Biden, and he's running around having cutting deals with China, him and his son, and that came out. One thing that the Constitution, started and inspired other countries, but where did the Constitution got their moral standards from? From the Torah, the teachings of God. So that's what they're really attacking, right? And they want Russia to go down because Russia is, Eastern Orthodox Church. They're very conservative, very Orthodox. They don't want, you don't find pornography in Russia out in the open, and strip clubs and debauchery, homosexuality is a sin. They're trying to get rid of that, those moral values, whatever country may have that, and kind of go, for the mark of the beast to work, they had to bring a Chinese model to America or in the world for it to work. Because we have this, freedom and my rights is my body, my rights, kind of attitude. They had to destroy that. That way of thinking, it would never work. And that's his theory, which is scary. But, let's continue reading. Okay, so let's go to chapter 9. Let's touch on this particular, let's go to chapter 9, verse 1. See what that says.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, chapter 9. Okay.
Yeah, you want to cover something?
Oh, no. I was just in verse 7. Okay, so.
Yeah. We'll jump into chapter 9.
All right. Leviticus chapter 9, verse 1. And it came to pass on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And he said unto Aaron, take thee a young calf for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering, without blemish, and offer them before the Most High. And unto the children of Israel thou shalt speak, saying, take ye a kid of the goats for a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both of the first year without blemish, for a burnt offering. Also a bullock and a ram for peace offerings to sacrifice before the Most High, and a meat offering mingled with oil. For today the Most High will appear unto you. And they brought that which Moses commanded before the tabernacle of the congregation. And all the congregation drew near and stood before the Most High. And Moses said, this is the thing which the Most High commanded that ye should do, and the glory of the Most High shall appear unto you. And Moses said unto...
I'm sorry. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 3, because that's the one I was looking at, and I wanted to bring out in regards that the life is in the blood, and you should not eat blood, neither eat fat nor blood.
Okay.
Leviticus chapter 3, let's go to verse 16, 3 and 16.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 3 and 16. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire, for a sweet savor. All the fat is the Most High's. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood.
There's one that says that the life is in the blood. Let me get that real quick. Life is in the blood. Well, let's go back to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 9, because Genesis chapter 9 touches on that. And because it goes, when Moses is discussing it, he's going back to this law. Genesis chapter 9, verse Let's start at verse 2.
All right. Genesis chapter 9, verse 2. Okay. All right. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall you not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. Okay, continue.
Yes, hold that and jump down. Go back to Leviticus chapter 7, verse 20, verse 26.
Okay. So I'm guessing, that's the real reason for the sacrifice, because the Most High,
exactly,
he bound it. Right.
Every blood has, if you spill it, it's for a purpose.
Okay.
Because if a man, since when God began to give permission for man to eat meat in Genesis chapter 9, after the ark, after the flood, although you're going to share this blood, because this blood is innocent, this blood has nothing to do, this animal, this creature, this life has done nothing to deserve, right? And it's taking the place of you, or no more importantly, you're killing it for your nourish, and now you have to offer that blood to me because it's innocent blood. So God has something about innocent blood and spilling innocent blood that has to be done in a respectful kind of way. That's why the Native Americans, when they used to kill an animal, they pray around it and pray to the spirit, for thanking them. It was not something they do in a very casual kind of manner. They respect the blood that's spilled. They appreciate it because it's feeding their family, it's clothing them, right? It's not just, you just kill an animal, without even giving thanks to God, because you're spilling blood, because every blood would I require, according to the Most High. So these are things that we have to look at, because we have to always give thanks, because you're right. He could have continue the law that we could only eat herbs. Right? In the beginning, it was only the herbs was the thing they used to feed us. Right? And, we do know that scientifically, probably before the flood, a lot of these herbs were more nutritious. There was more oxygen. We lived longer. All these things, the body has, our environment has changed. So maybe that could have been it. Or the reason why the Most High allowed us to have animals and eat animal is because he knew that we will be constantly moving. And, when you're eating herbs, you got to be stationary and know what you implant, and that takes some time. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but clearly God gave it respect, which we should give it respect as well. Cool. Right? So let's continue reading. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 7, verse 26. Okay. Because there's a reference to that.
Leviticus chapter 7, verse 26. Moreover, ye shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be a fowl or a beast in any of your dwellings. Whatsoever soul it be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from among his people. And the Most High said unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, He that offereth the sacrifice of his peace offerings unto the Most High shall bring his oblation unto the Most High of the sacrifice of his peace offerings. His own hand shall bring the offerings of the Most High made by fire, The fat with the breast it shall he bring, that the breast may be waved for a wave offering before the Most High.
And I think that was a thing that the Essenes did not eat meat because they felt that the temple was defiled. Because since you when you go and bring your offering, and because your offering was also the offering of God was the fat, the blood, I think the liver, the inner parts, that you eat. That you sacrifice. You don't eat that part. Right? That belongs to the God for a sweet savor. But the rest you eat. So back in the day, it wasn't like we could just go and eat and kill the animal and you spill the blood anywhere. It was a ritual thing that we had to do, which is now it's called that works, but back in the days it was a serious thing in regards of sacrifice, right? Now Christ was our sacrifice, but just killing an animal was more in depth than just simply just killing an animal. The blood of the like go into verse 33.
Okay. All right.
33.
7 and 33.
Yeah.
All right. He among the sons of Aaron that offereth the blood of the peace offerings and the fat shall have the right shoulder for his part. For the waved breast and the heaved shoulder have I taken of the children of Israel from off the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and have given them unto Aaron the priest and unto his sons by a statute forever from among the children of Israel.
So when you even go into that, what was a Levi? A Levi was your ancient butcher. A butcher, which is a skill. You got to know what part of the animal you got to cut, which ones to avoid, which one is, there's certain areas that you're not supposed to eat. It's toxic. There's a part of the liver. There's a piece that is not supposed to be good. I'm probably, don't quote me on this, but I know that there's a science to it. And when you are dealing with cutting animals and eating certain parts, the thigh, the back, this area, certain parts are more expensive than others, certain parts are more juicy than others. So all that, I think, a Levi was the first butcher, if you will, in Israel to understand, because like the shoulder belonged to him. So everything was for a purpose. This part is for sacrifice. You can't eat this. This belongs to the Levi. Okay, you can eat this. It was a very detailed scenario within Israel, right? So
yeah, Elder, you tell me. But as we read this more, I mean, you would have to ensure that you're in perfection to accept tithes on behalf of the name of the Most High. Like that's just something that's so grave
right
to me, and like seeing its severity and what was required of them to receive it. It's not I don't think it's a light thing, like to receive on behalf of the Most High.
Yeah, you got to be right. The person who's receiving it got to be right, and the person who is giving it got to be right. It was like a major thing. It wasn't something that just left. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to chapter 11, Leviticus, unless, because, Leviticus is a lot of, it breaks down everything from a sacrificial perspective. All the laws, when you break this law, there's a sacrifice. You break that law, that's a sacrifice. So, it gets redundant. So I just want to touch on things that is prevalent today. So let's go into chapter 11 of Leviticus, and this dealing with the dietary law. So we're gonna do a quick, we're gonna touch on some of the laws in regards of the hair and the diet as well. So let's read.
This is Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven footed, and cheweth cud amongst the beasts, that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat. of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof.
And let me
He is
do this. Let me share my screen real quick, because I want to touch on this, and I want people to. Let's see here. All right, you can see what I'm seeing.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, so let's touch on this real quick. This is dealing with the dietary laws, since we're going to be touching it. So we're going to make it as simple as possible, right? So we're going to go pick up at we're picking up at verse 11, right, to kind of give you a visual, because a lot of people sometimes they know this, but some people coming fairly new. So we're going to touch on this. So let's pick it up at verse 1 to 2 to 7. Just read it real quick.
Okay. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven footed, and cheweth the cud, among the beasts, that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean unto you.
Okay, so basically, they got to eat grass. They have to also have a hard shell or hard clove, and it has to be divided in the middle. Those three characteristics. All right, to keep it simple, let's go to, hold on 2 seconds. Okay, Leviticus 11 and 9 through 12, dealing with the fish.
Right. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas and in the rivers, them shall ye eat, and all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses an abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you.
Okay. 2 seconds, folks. Let me just fix this real quick. Okay. Okay, now we're dealing with birds.
Okay. And these are they, this is verse 13. And these are they which ye shall have an abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the ossifrage and the osprey and the vulture and the kite after his kind, every raven after his kind, and the owl and the nighthawk and the cacao and the hawk after his kind, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl and the swan and the pelican and the gear eagle and the stork and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat, all fowls that creep going upon all four shall be an abomination unto you.
Okay. Now creeping things. Okay. Okay. We pick up at verse 21st.
Okay. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you.
Right. So it says, let these be that you may eat flying, creeping things that goes upon all fours, which have legs above their feet. So you can see a picture on which one you could eat and which one you cannot. And sometimes it gets a little confusing, but that's what I want to kind of show you guys. Is like you got to get the ones that kind of like leap with their back leg. Although they got 4 legs, they leap with the back leg. You know, and that's kind of like a
Rule of thumb.
Yeah, rule of thumb and how to identify, right? Okay, so now we're gonna go with the haircuts because this is, I believe, in Leviticus 18. We're gonna jump to Leviticus 18. Let me see if Leviticus, let me see, 20 law of motherhood. Okay, we're gonna touch on that. So before we go on this, let's go. Let me stop sharing. Let me fix this real quick. Okay, we are good. Okay, so we are back. Okay, so let's pick it up at Leviticus chapter 12, and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint because the PowerPoint has some visual that I want to point out. So we're in chapter 12, verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a woman have conceived seed, and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. According to the days of the separation for her infirmity, she shall be unclean. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. But if she bear a maid child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her separation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation unto the priest, who shall offer it before the Lord and make an atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the issue of her blood. This is the law for her that hath borne a male or a female. And if she be not able to bring a lamb, then she shall bring 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons, the one for the burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her, and she shall be clean.
Exactly. So this is a pretty short chapter. Basically, when women give birth, they're unclean for a particular time, and it all depends whether it's a child or a female. A lot of women ask me about this particular scripture, or there's usually a little confusion, is this law still stands now? So this is how I look at it. A lot of these laws, when you read, it was established for the purpose of keeping the sanctuary holy. So if you're unclean, your husband's unclean, and he cannot go sacrifice, so it's all connected, right? But the temple is no longer up, so how is this applicable today? The way, and some people say, oh, we don't have to do it anymore. Other people say, well, you still have to do it. I always push, practice these traditions and practice these righteous acts, because when Christ comes back and establishes the temple, we have to at least have some form of understanding of what the law is. So I recommend that if you are, gave birth, or, you are unclean with your sisters, try to separate yourself as much as possible. It is going to be hard, right? Because sometimes you need resources. You need literally a different apartment or a different area for her only, right, for that week, or for the time when she's at, So sometimes I recommend maybe take that time not to go to the church, and then when you get back to the body, once you fulfill your days, you can come back to the body, although the temple's not up yet. Or, that's what I lean on. Some people argue that you don't have to do it anymore into the temple because this is all dealing with the temple. you know, it's okay with people believe on both sides. You know, there's a people that believe that we're not allowed to keep feasts outside of Jerusalem. I disagree with that, but I know where it comes from, right? But you know, I don't know if you have heard this argument before. If people have told you, like, you know, is this even is necessary for us to do anymore, or have you come across this particular question in the past?
The days of purification or the
Yes.
feast days?
Well, the day of purifications.
I've never really heard someone saying that you didn't have to do it, but I've never heard anyone like being forced to do it. But I always heard it suggested, and then you would see, you know, like my wife, she took time, but I have fraternal twins, like one boy, one girl, so I don't remember the exact date because usually they want to. I think, you know, it's difficult to return immediately anyway.
Yeah.
And but no, I've never heard the argument. But I would even say, you know, with the sacrifice after the 33rd day, if it's a boy, or the 66th day with the girl, it would be like a feast because you have where you celebrate the baby being weaned, and then you have like the 8th day ceremony for a son where you would name him and circumcise him. And then also you see here, there was a sacrifice at these times. And I think if a woman is at that time healthy, again, to celebrate that time, and that be like a sacrifice unto the Most High, how we do today. So like you mentioned, performing the righteous acts, that's what I would suggest, but not through force.
Yeah, because we are under grace. And for instance, like there's been times that a brother has called me and say, Elder, is my wife allowed to come to the Passover because she's got her period? And what's the, you know, and she's supposed to be in the choir, or she's in a play, or she's in this. So that's when grace comes in. But these are questions that I have been asked, so I want to kind of bring it up because some people may not know what is the proper, right, protocols. We're under grace, but we should rehearse the righteous acts and complete them at the best of our ability. When we come short, that's when grace comes in. You know, so that's my stand on it. I just wanted to just touch on it because, you know, people may ask that question, and then I wanted to touch on it. Chapter 13 focuses on leprosy, right? To test for leprosy, we could touch on that real quick. Scan through that. Okay. So let's read real quick.
All right. This is Leviticus chapter 13, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague in the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, and the plague in sight be deeper than the skin of the flesh, it is a plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab. He shall wash his clothes and be cleaned. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it have turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even unto his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, Then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white, he is clean. But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall see the raw flesh, and pronounce him to be unclean. For the raw flesh is unclean, it is a leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed unto white, he shall come unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. He is clean. The flesh also, in which even in the skin thereof was a bow, and is healed. And in the place of the bow there be a white rising, or a bright spot white, and somewhat reddish, and be showed to the priest. And if when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the bow. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in his place and spread not, it is a burning bow, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be any flesh in the skin whereof there is a hot burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning.
And jump down and
Okay.
verse 54.
Okay. Then verse 54, Leviticus chapter 13, verse 54. Then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall set it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after that it is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed its color, the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold,
Where are you? I'm sorry. 56?
yes,
Okay, I want to
56.
make sure that people are following. So I want to ask, where did, our brother Azariah Alexander said, where did that form of leprosy came from? I believe that form of leprosy came from the Horites and the Canaanites that were there in the land. And what was happening is that when you go into the word Horites means hoary head, right? That's when Esau, Esau, believe it or not, from my studies, and I'm still need to do more studies, became hairy. Well, no, he was born hairy, but he had that same hoary head the same way as the Horites had their hoary head. The Horites became leprous. There's different theories. They probably felt, sleeping with the fallen, the fallen angels, or some experiment or something that went down that they became hairy and leprous, which is white as snow, or lack of melanin. I know one of the Canaanites' name were cave dwellers. One of the I know
Troglodytes.
I know the word Canaanite, I believe, means landlord, if I'm not mistaken, or lord of the land or something like that. I could be wrong. It's been around.
Yeah.
The Horites, I think, is hoary heads, but I know one of them means cave dweller. It's been a while. And it could have been that they probably lost their pigmentation and developed some disease. Because this sounds to me not necessarily as a righteous, wicked thing, or right and wrong, but more like this is how you get rid of this sickness, or this is how you make sure this sickness doesn't get spread among the Israelites.
Mm.
And I think there was some disease or some bacteria that God wants to remove out of Israel that came in through the Canaanites, the Hivites, and all the other ites that were there in the land. So for my study, but we could probably do a study on that. But I hope I answered it. But white as snow it is in a comparison to their dark skin. So, for instance, remember in in Numbers chapter 12 when Miriam became leprous? Let's go there real quick. Let's go there. I think it's Numbers 12. Yeah. So let's go to Numbers chapter 12 real quick. Let me get there first.
I'll start at verse 1 or?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Verse.
10 is.
Yeah, let me get there real quick first,
Okay.
and then we could get there. So I'm in chapter 12 of Numbers, and let's jump down to 3.
Verse 10 is where she leprous right there.
Yeah, let's go to let's start at verse 10.
Okay. The book of Numbers, chapter 12, verse 10. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb.
So stop right there. So here's Aaron giving a physical description in how leprosy looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't they were white as snow, like literally white as snow. It was real white. It's like sometimes when you go into the way we used to describe, it was like they describe it something that is far to the, it's so far apart to make a reference. It's like, yeah, he was white. Yeah, how white was he? He was white as snow. He was not literally white as snow, but it was a reference to how different he were to everybody else. But then this is the first time that we see a description. It says, let him not be as one dead. So you notice when someone loses blood or is dead, he gets what? Pale, right? And the flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb. So when you notice when a baby first come out, they come out pale, extremely pale. So I remember when my son came out, I was like, good Lord, you sure this is my son? He's so pale. I mean, right? So it wasn't like white as snow, as literal snow, but it was just, not as the pigmentation of your typical Hebrew, which was brown.
Right.
Ready or rooty, right? So that's the reference. So what is leprosy? Is a disease. That's why I don't believe that, lack of melanin is like, I don't think that lack of, that every race, all right, let me reframe this. I believe that every race is supposed to be a certain level of brownness, light brown, dark brown, but that pale, and you go into leprosy, you go also have yellow hair. It says the yellow hair is coming out, which is the equivalent that would be blonde. I believe that's a more birth defect of some genetic thing coming from the Horites. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
when
sir.
Esau began to mix himself with the Horites, that DNA was planted in him. So that is not really a natural earthly color, because brown is the natural earthly color of this world. And I think it came from some mixing of the Horites, which they began to tap into some technology of the fallen angels and became leprous. And then so I hope, and we could, there's always been controversy, what is leprosy? Some people say, no, it's not white skin, it's some, like boils in your skin or what have you. But we could clearly see here that Aaron gave a reference a comparison how a leprosy looks like. So
Right,
it's
right.
more like a birth defect. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Brother Ricky says, so was Marian leprosy a spiritual from, and the other that you read earlier was more of a physical? I think they're both the same. You know, I want to hear more. What expound on that, Brother Ricky? But I think it was the leprosy when I read it in Leviticus 13, 14, and 50, because those 3 chapter covers that subject. I think. Let me go to Leviticus 13. Because I think all chapter 14. The law of cleaning a leopard and cleanliness and unhealthiness. Okay, let's go there. Chapter 15 also touches on uncleanness or having an issue, things of that nature. But leprosy is leprosy. I think it was a birth defect, it was a disease or some virus or something in the ancient world that was prevalent, and God wanted us to be protected from it. I don't think it was nothing else outside of that. You know, it's people just became, and I think you could find an example of that, people becoming leprous. Some people are born leprous with they will call albino, right? That would be considered a clean leopard. And then you have those that are becoming albino or becoming a leopard. Okay. Let's see here. I see Brother Alexander, he brought in Exodus 4 and 6. Let's go there. Let's see what Exodus 4 and 6 says. Let's go there real quick. I'm just curious. Exodus 4 and 6. Let's see where that touches it. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, put on thou, and okay, it became lepers. Okay, yes, I should know that, right? That's just like, right. It's the same thing. I think leprosy was there's a medical term for leprosy, that you start losing your color. I know Michael Jackson is claimed to have been
vitiligo.
Vitiligo. There you go. I think that's what it is. That's what God was trying to protect us from. And I think it could have probably been a virus or something that was contagious. So that's why we have to separate the rest from those that have it, right? Anything you want to touch on that, Brother Ahmad?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's go to Leviticus 15.
Okay.
We can start at verse 2.
Right.
And I want to touch on the other stuff on let's see here. The PowerPoint is touching on the hair. So let me see what's the next slide. Okay, Leviticus 18. Yeah, I want to get there. So let's run through this real quick. So Leviticus 15, verse 2.
All right. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue he is unclean. And this shall be his uncleanliness in his issue, whether his flesh run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is his uncleanliness. Every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat,
I'm sorry. Were you in verse 3 or where are you? I'm sorry. I want to make sure.
I'm in verse 6 now.
Verse 6. Yeah. So I think I lost it. Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Right. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that hath the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And if he that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And what saddle soever he rideth upon.
Give me your verse again. I'm sorry, because I want to make sure.
Okay.
I'm not. It's not matching up, so I want to make sure it matches up when I post the
Yes, sir.
scriptures.
Okay. Verse 9.
Verse 9. Okay, I'm in verse 8. So you're in Leviticus 15, correct?
Yes, sir. Verse 9.
Verse 9. Okay, just want to make sure. And that shall be. Okay. Just want to make sure. Go ahead.
Okay. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean.
I know what happened. I'm an idiot. I'm in Numbers. That's the reason why. I gotta go back to Leviticus. That's the.
Okay.
All right. I was wondering why this thing is not matching up. Okay. Now we good. Okay, I'm the idiot. Okay, here we go.
Right. Leviticus chapter 15, verse 9. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And whomsoever he toucheth that hath the issue and hath not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even.
You know, this reminds me of the people from the Amazon forest. Those brothers, they're there. When someone gets sick, they separate them. And, I think an open issue, it could probably be, this sounds to me more as a medical what's that word that you use with when you contain someone, when you separate, you contain someone and separate someone from the rest because that person may get that one sick, right? I remember that the term, that the whole vaccination science came from the Europeans looking at, I think that culture is in Africa, but it's also what's found here in the South America, that someone used to get sick, they used to separate them. And I think they used to separate them from the older people, and the younger people used to get a little snot or something with their, and put it under their nose or something to get sick as well. But then that would strengthen the immune system because the vaccine science is that they'll give you a little dose of the virus so that your immune system will recognize it when it gets it, and it will create its own antibodies.
Wow.
So this sounds very close into that culture. It's just like don't touch him or separate him. Anything that he touch, right? And especially here, it's talking about having an open issue. So maybe he has a cut or something that is a flowing issue, something that is coming out, any fluids coming out of his body, can be a virus, could be a disease, and then don't touch anything he has touched because you may get sick as well. So I think a lot of it, and we don't know what was the sickness in the ancient world. They could be totally different than we see today. Quarantine, that's the word I'm looking for, quarantine, exactly. So this sounds like a very quarantine type of scenario. And we're looking at it from a perspective that, God wants the temple holy and clean, but he was probably just looking out for us, wanting us just to stay clean, stay not get any diseases.
Right.
That's how I look at it, from that perspective. It makes sense. The fallen angels were, they were spliting. Right, exactly. So there's probably things going on. They probably die out. Diseases that are not as, the human body has developed antibodies, immune system. Because the word immune system is that you need to have your kids outside and playing and touching things because there's bacteria everywhere. Then the child gets immune to this bacteria. By default, their immune system gets stronger. So immune system, antibody, it gets developed by being exposed to bacteria and things that could heal you and kill you and get you sick, and your body develop a strong immune system by eating right. First of all, if you're eating junk, you're gonna get sick, overweight, smoking cigarette, drinking every day, not eating, drinking enough water, sleeping at least 8 hours a night. You got to take care of your temple, right? Sure, if you do that, your body, when you're a child, you drink your mother's breast milk. They try to stop that sometimes and giving them a turn in breast milk. I recommend mothers always use their breast milk if it's possible, because this is going to develop the antibodies that you're going to need to survive, right? So, sure. So I think a lot of that. Let's see here, chapter 16, Law of Atonement. So chapter 16 goes into the Law of Atonement, specifically what we have to do for the Day of Atonement, right? Which is the Holies of Holies, the day when the high priests go into the Holies of Holies once a year. Right. Let's see it, verse 17, whosoever of the house of Israel killed an ox, okay? Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. Let's go to 17, because I thought this was kind of interesting. And I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on this subject. Let's pick it up at verse 2 in Leviticus chapter 17. And then we're going to go into the PowerPoint, touching hair and different things, because I want to show you guys a visual. So let's go to let's go to Leviticus 17, verse 2, and we're going to go into the visual in a few minutes. Let's go.
Okay. Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, this is the thing which the Most High hath commanded, saying, what man soever there be of the house of Israel that killeth an ox or lamb or goat in the camp, or that killeth it out of the camp, and bringeth it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer an offering unto the Most High before the tabernacle of the Most High, blood shall be imputed unto that man. He hath shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people, to the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices, which they offer in the open field, even that they may bring them unto the Most High, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priest, and offer them for peace offerings unto the Most High.
So was it all of it? Okay, so let's reverse. Let's uncap it real quick, because it says, verse 3, what man whosoever there be of the house of Israel that killed an ox or a lamb or a goat in the camp, in the community, or that killeth it out of the camp, and brings it not. So is this saying that you are not allowed to kill an animal anywhere? You got to kill it in the tabernacle, in the particular place, because that blood needs to be spilled, and every blood has to be required? That's how I'm reading it.
Okay. I'm reading it as sacrifice, like hiding the sin, right?
Okay.
So because I don't think that every time they cooked, or they, there's many instances in scripture where there were offerings that were not brought before priests.
So this will be the you're right. This will be the firstborn of every. What is set apart, that you're not allowed to kill anywhere.
Right, because it goes into It says, and offer them for priest offerings unto the Most High, because everything. Verse 5 says, to the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices. Or offer them for peace offerings. So what I'm getting is that if I've sinned and I don't want to go through the proper protocol of bringing it before people and showing that I've made mistakes, and I'm hiding those things, but I'm saying, okay, I still need to be rectified with the Most High, but I'm not going to do that openly, then I'm looking at it as if this is a hiding of the sin.
And not only that, that's why I like to go back to these laws, because you forget a lot of it from its perspective. Remember with Saul, sacrifice and he didn't wait it for Samuel. Remember, he did it.
Mm.
He
Wow.
didn't do it where he's supposed to have done it, right?
Right.
So I think that is also tied into that the sacrifice have to be done because that blood in particular is special, right? Because you're killing it for specifically a sin. You cannot spill that blood anyway because it has to be spilled in the altar. So it goes into that. Yeah.
Wow.
So the sea is sprinkled. Okay, so let's jump down to verse 18, chapter 18.
Okay.
And we all know this is all the immoral sexual that is against the culture of Israel, right? Sexually. Who are you supposed to sleep with, who are you not allowed to sleep with, and so forth, so on, right?
Okay.
So let's go into verse 1.
Okay.
Chapter 18, Leviticus. And then we're going to go to the slide real quick. We're going to start at... Yeah, and we'll show the PowerPoint in a few minutes because it's something, actually 18 is there, right? Let's go there real quick. Let's read verse 2.
Okay. Speak unto the children of Israel, say unto them, I am the Most High, your power. After the doings of the land of Egypt wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments, and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am the Most High, your power. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the Most High. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Most High. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness, for they are thy near kinswoman. It is wickedness. Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister to vex her, to uncover her nakedness besides the other in her lifetime. Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is put apart for her uncleanliness. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech. Neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Most High. Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind. It is abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast, to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast, to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Defile not yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you.
And so this goes to show you that the Egyptians and the Canaanites were doing these practices, because you read these things, right? You're like, well, this is obviously, I'm not going to sleep with my sister, my mom, right? My aunt, right? You think these are things that is an automatic thing that everybody should do in the ancient world. Not necessarily. You have many royal families that they sleep with each other's sisters and brothers because they want to keep it within the family line, right? You got the Hicksperts. The Egyptians used to do this. They done research on certain people that were supposed to be husband and wife in ancient Egypt, and they were actually brother and sister because they wanted to keep it within the family. So this is a custom that the Egyptians were doing. And I always tell my brothers from the Kemetic community that believe that the Hebrew culture was stolen from the Egyptian culture. If you're gonna do a comparison between both cultures, Hebrew is a rejection. The Hebrew culture or the biblical culture is a rejection of the Egyptian culture. Down from, in Egypt, multiple gods, only worship one God. Egypt had all kinds of image and towers of images of gods, no image before God, right? Within the Hebrew culture, when we used to mourn for the dead, we used to shave our head. That was a culture. When the Egyptians used to mourn for the dead, they used to let their hair grow. So in America, what culture you think we follow mostly? The Egyptian or the Hebrews? Because when someone is depressed or someone is lost and they let themselves go, you let yourself go. What they do? They let their hair grow. But in the Hebrew culture, we let our hair grow and cut our hair when we're mourning. It's like a little opposite, right? And we're going to touch on this on the PowerPoint. So let's focus on the PowerPoint real quick. You had a question, or I saw your head moving. One of you had a question.
No, sir. I was just listening. Yeah.
Okay, so let's share this screen real quick. All right, so let's see here. All right, so here we are. So we're in Leviticus 18, 2 and 4. We're going to pick it up again, and we're going to touch on another confusion as well, Leviticus 19. Most people think that Leviticus 19 is talking about everyone. Like, for instance, let's read Leviticus 19 real quick. Leviticus 19, 27, 28, right?
All right. Okay. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Most High.
I am the Most High, right? So let's go real quick. I want to show you guys something. Okay. Let me show you guys something real quick. Let's read Leviticus chapter 19 from on top.
Okay.
Yeah, let's read it real quick.
Yes, sir. Okay. Get there. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1.
Yeah, because if you start at verse 27 in chapter 19 of Leviticus, you're going to lose the point, right? So I want to bring the point home.
Okay. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, Ye shall be holy, for I, the Most High, your power, am holy. Ye shall fear every man his mother and his father, and keep my Sabbaths. I am the Most High, your power. Turn ye not unto idols, nor make to yourselves molten gods. I am the Most High, your power. And if ye offer a sacrifice of peace offerings unto the Most High, ye shall offer it at your own will. It shall be eaten the same day ye offer it, and on the morrow.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. I think it's verse 21.
Right. Okay.
Yes, that's the one I'm looking for. Verse 21.
Right.
Verse 21.
Okay.
But you know what? Let's that should not round the corner. Okay, you know what? Let's go back to the PowerPoint. I want to go back to the PowerPoint because I am jumping the gun here, right? I'm going to 21st. Let's start at 19 because I want to bring this out. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, right? And I'll go to 21 because that's a different subject, but I want to bring it home. So, this subject, this whole thing started with, in verse 18, you should not do the customs of the Egyptians nor the Canaanites or the people that are around you, right? You were not going to do what they're doing. So when the scripture says, ye shall not round the corners of your head, people misunderstand what it is talking about. Because in the Hebrew, there is a word there that is after the word head or before the word head that it says a symbol to a god. Okay? So when you read it in his understanding, because a lot of people, the Jewish people think that you're not supposed to touch the side. That's why you got the side locks or the side, you see that. Other people say, brother, you're not supposed to have a fade, right? You hear that. But this is actually talking about the customs of the people around around them. Ye shall not round the corners of your head. What is the round with what? With emblem. And I got the worship of Horus was the Silock. So this is the crazy thing that the so-called Jews are doing. And I would challenge any Jewish person, because I got the scholarship to show you that their so-called Silock that they have, they don't let their side grow, and they, and you see sometimes some of them, matter of fact, let me get a picture of Jewish people. Jewish people side locks. Let me show you something real
According
quick.
to Wikipedia, Piotr warned.
Okay. Yeah, let me show this for a minute to the people. Let me show this right here. Yeah, let me show this right here real quick. This Silox, like right here, is precisely the commandment that God told us to do. When you go into the PowerPoint, okay, the corners of your head is talking about the Horus lock. So they're doing the same thing. Here goes another one. Let me show you another one. That's the Horus lock. They just do it on both sides.
Oh yeah, I can't see it. Okay, but I'm gonna go.
Okay. You can maybe
right.
on
YouTube. Yeah.
Right. Matter of fact, let me. I want you to see it real quick. Let me start sharing here, and let me show the other screen, because I want you to see this.
Okay.
I want you to see this, my friend. Right. Matter of fact, let me. I gotta give me permission to get. Hold on, 2 seconds. Let me do this. Not that one. What's the one I'm looking for? Choose. Okay. Okay. I don't. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. Bear with me. Hold on. 2 seconds. Make her host. Okay, here we go. So let me share on this screen, because I want you to see this.
Sure.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Doesn't that look like the Silock of Horus?
It does.
So with these guys are misunderstanding the scripture, that the rounding the corners of your head, when you look at the proper translation of that, is talking about the Silocks, of Horus, that because remember, the Most High was telling Israel not to do what? Follow the customs of the Hebrews. So who was rounding the corners of their head?
Egyptians.
The Egyptians.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. So God was warning the Israelites not to do, and you can find, I showed you guys, I'm showing you another picture, a modern picture of an African man, young kid, doing the same culture. So this is not talking about you can't have a side fade or nothing, because within the culture, within chapter 21, we're going to go into that. That was a culture that we used to do with mourning. We should shave our head as a sign of mourning, pluck our beards and shave our head and rip. It was a sign of mourning. A Levite was not allowed to do that for the dead. We're going to go into that. All right. So let's go. Let's go to the next verse. Let's go to, and let me take out the emblem for you guys to see. Okay, hold on 2 seconds. Let me do this. Okay, here we go. Where are you? Okay, let me just take. All right, so let's go into the scriptures. We're in Leviticus 19:27. Now we're gonna read. All right, let me set the stage here. Let me set the stage because I want you guys. We gotta first go to. Let's go. I wanna first go. Let me start sharing the screen for a minute. Oh, you know what? Let's continue. Let me stay there and let me show you the audience. Okay, here we go. So. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 21.
Okay.
And let's follow along. We can understand what we're talking about. So let's read.
All right, Leviticus chapter 21, verse 1.
Yes.
Okay. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 21, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, Speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, There shall none be defiled for the dead among his people, but for his kin that is near unto him, that is for his father, and that is for his mother, and for his father, and for his son, and for his daughter, and for his brother, and for his sister, a virgin that is nigh unto him, which hath had no husband. For her he may be defiled.
Defiled in what sense? What
Mourning,
is it?
right?
In mourning or going to the funeral?
Oh, going amongst the dead. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So for these people, you're allowed to go visit the dead, right? Their dead bodies, the funeral, because you are a priest. But for these other people, you're not allowed to defile yourself. So the context here is going for a priest, because he said, go speak to the children of Israel. Go speak to the children of Aaron and tell them this is how you are allowed, you can mourn for these family members or go to their funeral as a priest, right? Continue reading.
Okay. All right. Verse 4. But he shall not defile himself, being a chief man among his people, to profane himself. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh.
Because
they shall be
because he was referencing culture of the Gentiles, what they used to do. That's why you got sometimes people in the Middle East when they're mourning or they are in a situation they are mourning or upset, they cut themselves or whatever, or they put a mark for the dead, like a tattoo. I want to put a picture of my grandmother, she passed. I love that. You're not allowed to do that. Right? So all of this was custom of the heathens. Now, the Hebrews were allowed to cut their hair, yes. Like after you put a vow, you do the vow of Nazarene, the Nazarite vow.
That's right.
The Nazarite. After you're done, you're allowed to cut your hair. You could. There was a story in the Second Kings, I believe, that talks about that the men clipped their beards when they saw the king, or they made themselves ready and they clipped their beards. They trimmed their beards. So when it talks about remove the side of their hair. When you go into priests, like or people that were upset, they used to pluck their beards off their hair as a sign of frustration.
Mm.
So a priest is not allowed to do that, right? So let's read it.
All right. Verse 6. They shall be holy unto their God, and not profane the name of their God. For the offerings of the Most High made by fire, and the bread of their God they do offer. Therefore they shall be holy. They
Right.
shall not take.
So let me also say this. And I'm going to bring the PowerPoint in a few minutes. Leviticus 21 and Leviticus 19, when it talks about this, cut the corners of your hair in 19, and baldness in 21 is two different things. People confuse that.
Okay.
Rounding the corners of your hair is the silox. Honor to Horus.
Mm.
Baldness was something, or cutting our hair was a culture we used to do back in the days when we were mourning for the dead. Like Job, remember, he shaved his head when his kids died.
Mm.
It was a culture. And there was an article. Let me see if I have that on this real quick. So let me share this real quick. Let me go back to the Sherry, because I wanna bring this out. Okay, and because it's gonna touch on this. So people sometimes confuse those two, and I wanna, so I just wanna bring that out. And okay, here we go. Right. So I brought this article. So Leviticus 19, 27, 28 is the Septuagint, the one on top. Leviticus 21 is the King James, and Leviticus, the Septuagint, 21 reads a little different. So read the Leviticus 21 verse 5 in the King James, and then read the Septuagint.
Okay. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. Leviticus 21 and 5 in the Septuagint. And ye shall not shave your head for the dead with the baldness on the top, and they shall not shave their beard, neither shall they make gashes on their flesh.
So what is the difference between the King James and the Septuagint? Do you notice the difference? I highlighted and read it.
Okay, for the dead. Okay.
It doesn't mention that. It's understood because it started in verse 1, speak to the children of Aaron and let them not defile themselves, but they are allowed to defile themselves for their father, their mother, their brother, their sister. If their sister's a virgin, they're allowed to visit them. So in the Septuagint, it even brings it out even more detailed, because it said, ye shall not shave your head for the dead.
Mm.
Why? Because that was a custom for us to shave our head for the dead, like Job did and others.
Mm. Right.
Shaving their head in mourning.
Mm.
Right? Leviticus 19 and 27 and 28 in the Septuagint reads a little different from the King James. Read that on top.
Okay. Ye shall not make a round cutting of the hair of your head, nor disfigure your beard. And ye shall not make cuttings in your body for a dead body, and ye shall not inscribe on yourselves any marks. I am the Most High, the power.
Because this was something people used to do around and about us, the Canaanites and the Egyptians, to give homage to the dead. We are not allowed to do that. But so that law was specifically dealing with mourning and how we used to mourn versus other people used to mourn. right? All right, so let's go with the fringes. We could skip this because this is the book of Numbers. We're going to touch this later on in the future. This is Leviticus 19. Let me see. This is 19 and 19. It's dealing also with the different clothing that you're supposed to have and not have, right? So let's go into that.
Right. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 19. Okay. Ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. And whosoever lieth carnally with a woman that is a bondmaid.
All right, hold on. I see it. Hold on, let me, because I'm looking. I don't know why. Why is it? I'm not. Okay, I see what's going on here. Let me, hold on 2 seconds. I just want to make sure I'm showing. Okay, here we go. Because I was showing the wrong. There you go. That's the one I wanted to show. Okay. Because they were seeing something different. I don't know what went wrong. It froze. So let's go there. Leviticus 19 and 19.
All right. Ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee.
So what this means? Okay, people get this also confused. The word linen, the word there really, let's go into the word linen, which is H6593, and woolen, which is 6785, right?
Okay.
So linen, let's read that first, which is the bottom.
All right.
6593.
Okay. It, as in the sense of comminuting linen, that is the thread as carded, flax, linen, fiber used as material for garments.
Exactly. So linen is flax. Flax is basically any material that came from plants. That's what flax represents. So you're not allowed to mix material that came from plants from material that came from animals. Did that make sense?
Yes.
So the word there is flax. So if it's 50% cotton and 50% give me another animal. I mean another tree or another plant that
it's polyester from a plant.
No, polyester is like it's some synthetic chemicals. It's not.
Okay.
It comes out of like some rocks or something. I think I forgot how it's made.
What about silk? That's the.
Well, silk comes from bees.
Okay.
Right, that comes from animals. But you got cotton, you got hemp clothing. Okay. The people can make a clothes out of hemp.
Okay.
Linen. Right. It's although people think it's linen. So if you have 50% cotton and 50% linen, it is lawful. That makes sense?
Oh.
It is lawful.
Okay.
Because the word there is really linen. Linen is a word that was described, or flax is a word that is a material that came from plant. But we delegate linen. So in other words, okay, if we're gonna read this word or read this scripture as it is exactly it is, then you can mix other stuff. You can mix leather with cotton. It doesn't say cotton, it says linen. You get what I'm saying? So linen there represents flax, anything that comes from plants. Wool or woolen is something that comes from an animal. Let's read the definition for woolen.
Okay. From a simmer, from an unused root, probably meaning to be shaggy, wool.
Right.
So you're saying linen is not from linen is from an animal?
Linen is not from an animal.
but it's synthetic.
Linen is linen. How does linen made?
Well, let me so I can say, why do you say that it is okay to mix linen with wool?
No, not wool. Not
Oh,
wool.
it's not okay.
It's not
But
okay.
you say okay.
It's not okay.
Right.
It's okay to mix linen with cotton because linen and cotton or hemp, they all come from plants.
So you're saying no. What you're saying is it's not saying mixed garments, because typically this is like people take this to mean it has to be 100% of whatever it is.
Exactly.
But you're saying no.
Yeah.
It's outlawing the mixing of animal cloth
Material
and the mixing
plants.
of various materials. Yes,
and plants.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And plants material. Cotton, linen, hemp, anything, any material that comes from cotton, anything from because flax is all there. It's all, fleece. I think it's fleece. Where does fleece come from? Fleece comes
I'm
from.
not sure. Okay. Fleece.
Where does fleece come from? Material. Let's see here. Fleece. Oh, not fleet like the animal. We'll probably have to do a lesson on this altogether, more show the people. But this is talking about it's not 100%. So if you got 100% cotton and 50% or 50% cotton and 50% linen or hemp or 30% hemp, it's okay.
Okay. Okay.
But we're living by grace these days. Very difficult to have everything, the way we want it, because they throw a lot of polyester into a lot of things, and polyester is not even a tree. It doesn't come from a tree or an animal. It's like a rock material, and they take it, and it's designed to keep material stretchy.
Okay.
Right. So let's go back and let's continue. Because I want to. Let's see here. If there's anything else. No, I think that's it. Okay, that's it. So I want to touch on that real quick. So let's continue in. So we touched Leviticus 19, right? So I just want to make sure we drive it home. So Leviticus 18, right? Leviticus 18. Let me Leviticus, let's go to Leviticus 19 and 27. I want to go there, and then we're going to go to Leviticus 21, because I want to bring that home, right? So Leviticus 19 and 27.
Okay.
Let me get there real quick. Okay, we there.
All right. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard.
Okay, this is totally different from Leviticus 21. Let's go to Leviticus 21.
Okay.
Verse 5. And folks, if you disagree, please comment, or you see things a little different, please challenge me if I'm wrong. Leviticus 21 and 5 is talking about something else. Let's read that.
Okay. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh.
So this one, Leviticus 19 was dealing with for the general public, the general population, and Leviticus 21 was dealing specifically with the Levites, specifically how they are allowed to defile themselves for and be going to go to a funeral and see their loved one, their father, the mother, the sister, the brother, right? In that case. But even in that case, they're still not allowed to shave their head. That makes sense?
Yes.
Although that was a culture. I need to find the one where Job did it. There was other people that did it. They shaved their head as a sign of as a sign of mourning, right? But you cannot combine these two scriptures because they're saying two different things. The round of the corners and baldness is two different things. The round of the corners is talking about the Horus lock.
Yep.
Printing around an image to give worship to a god.
Mm.
And the other one is specifically for the dead, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
I said, you should not make round cutting of the hair of your head, nor distinguish your beard. Meaning, this is specifically dealing with the culture of the Egyptians doing this. Because what would be the logic what God would say this? Because when I was coming up, and within the Hebrew Israelite community in one West, they would say, "Oh, brother, you're not supposed to have a fade round the corners of the head."
Okay.
That was wrong. That was incorrect. Because what was the purpose of that? Every law had logic. It was law. Every law that God appointed, it was for the betterment of the benefit of the people of Israel.
Mm.
So when he says, "Do not do the custom of the gods of the people around about, of the Canaanites, of the Egyptians," and he said, "Do not round the corner of your head for the dead." When you look at the word as a Hebrew, that means a symbol for God.
Mm.
So what he was talking about here? He was talking about the Horus lock.
Mm.
So the Jewish people, and some people say, don't shave this part of your head, even if you decide to shave the other part of your head. That's exactly what God told not to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Do not round the corners
Yeah.
of your head. It's like me putting this thing here, and
Wow.
this is hair, and I'm rounding the corners of the head as an insignificant or a symbol, because there's a Hebrew word that was not translated. There was like almost a few hundred words in the Hebrew Bible. There was the Masoretic text, or the not the Masoretic text, the translators of the King James did not know how to translate that word, so they left it alone.
Mm. Wow.
So he was just talking about the Horus locks. He wasn't talking about what the Jewish people is doing today. And there's the reason why the Jewish people are wrong in regards to saying that we have an unbroken, changed tradition since Moses. And and they got this wrong.
Right.
I should do a lesson on this by itself, because this itself is a conversation that needs to be had, right? So let's continue in Leviticus. Let me see. Leviticus 19. I want to go back to that, because Leviticus 19 goes into a lot in regards of so let's pick it up at 19 verse 27.
Okay. Right. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Most High.
So what we have to do, sometimes the way we can figure out how can we get a better understanding of what God was talking about, we have to figure out and study what the Canaanites were doing traditionally and what the Egyptians were doing traditionally, because the Egyptians were putting tattoos for the dead. So if we know what the enemy was doing or the pagans were doing, it will bring the scripture even more to light, similar to like the law, the works of the law, the document found in the Qumran caves. It brings Paul's writing to a much higher understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you need to study these pagan cultures, and it would give us a better understanding why God point out these particular laws.
Right, right. And and I would just mention, because what would come to mind is where a person might say, learn not the customs of the heathen, but that's meaning more practice and not to not be
and I could see
aware
how
of
could
them.
people say, well, Gabar, then the scripture says, learn not, and in that context, I agree with you. However, though, the reason why we're touching into these things, because it could give us a greater, if you're reading, from a document that's thousands of years, later, of a
Right.
culture that doesn't longer exist anymore, of the Canaanite and the Egyptians as they exist back then, by learning or by reading how they used to do it, it will give you even a greater understanding how not to do it.
Right, right,
Because
right. And,
within America, we are keeping a lot of Egyptian culture without even knowing.
right, right. Yes, sir.
So maybe tap it into it, like, okay, now I know where that comes from. Now I know, and it brings a greater light to the laws of God when we are reading the laws of God.
Right. And I was even mentioning even further that when it's saying learn, it's meaning to practice or to be trained in the way, but it is not saying to not be aware of the practices. But like you mentioned, even in the translation, sometimes these things can be translated in a way that the translators meant, but if we don't understand the essence of what it meant in its original language, we can become over righteous, like what we're just reading about.
Or we missed the mark.
Yeah,
The word,
we missed.
I think sin or transgression means miss the mark. You're missing the mark. So we have to know exactly what this ancient document was talking about. A lot of the laws may not even apply today because we live in under grace, but we should dive ourselves into these studies to make sure that there's something we're not missing.
Right.
Yeah. So let's continue. We're in verse 28.
Okay. And it reads, ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Most High. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. Ye shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Most High. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Most High your God. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man and fear thy God.
Now,
I am the most.
That's why it's very important, right? To rewrite or reread these laws, because what do you get this? Thou shalt rise from the hoary head. What do you get from that? What's your understanding from that?
Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head.
Yes.
Honoring the aged men.
Yeah. But, and see, this is a Caribbean thing. We still keep this in the Caribbean. You grew up in America, so, but down south, you ask your grandparents.
Okay.
When an older person used to come up in the room, what we used to do?
Oh, would you stand up?
Hi, man. How we doing? Remember that? Every time you don't remember that, culture? Anybody who is from like Trinidad, Dominican Republic, they still know somebody. That was the culture that you had to do that. When somebody walks in the room, an older person, a hoary head, you always stand up. And you said, in Spanish, it says bendición. Bendición means bless me.
Wow.
You always ask for a blessing in the Caribbean.
Man, that's beautiful. Wow. No, I didn't know
That's so when it says ride before the hoary head, meaning when you get brought, you haven't back in the day when I was in One West, right? When the elder used to come in, we got to stand up. Rise. Abide Shabbat.
Mm.
You gotta salute, right? But in the Hebrew culture, that's where they got it from. But in here it says the hoary head is not necessarily a elder like a leader, just an older person.
Older
You
person,
give
yeah.
a hoary head, as you ride before the hoary head and honor the face of the old,
Yeah. Okay. So
the
I
old
believe
man.
Paul was telling Timothy, honor the elders as unto fathers, but I
Yes,
believe
there.
elders in general,
Yeah,
or is it are
and there was talking about older people.
older people, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, older people. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's a good. Man, that's something valuable. Like, a good practice. You said it was bendición,
Bendición.
bendición, bendición.
Which means bless me.
Mm. Ah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So
Wow.
the Caribbeans got to know this. It's probably being lost, but it's something
Yeah.
we used to do back in the days. But it's telling you that if it's a commandment, then you gotta, and these are things that we have to get into when we will end up, God, when I God forbid, God hope, we end up being separate and we out of this, modern state of condition. We are creating our own community. We gotta reread these things and apply these things within our culture.
Wow. Yeah.
Every time an
Yeah.
older person comes in, we rise before the overhead. We give them respect.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's continue reading.
Yes, sir. Verse 33. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be as one born amongst you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Most High your God. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. I am the Most High your power, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe all my statutes and all my judgments and do them. I am the Most High.
Okay, so when these when it talks about the Gentiles, we have to, when they come among us and they convert, we have to not mistreat them. And I'm pretty sure God had to put this law there because we probably hated the Egyptian guts. We just came out of their captivity, right? So we had to say, listen, you remember how it was when you lived in somebody else's land. When somebody lives in your land, you got to treat them fair and be honorable towards them, right? So let's go to chapter 20. Let me see how many more chapters a little bit, because we're probably gonna do a part 2 next week. We got 27. We could probably cover them, a lot today, but I don't want to rush it. So let's pick it up at chapter 20. Chapter 20, human sacrifice and immorality. Okay, let's see what this talks about.
Okay.
All right, so chapter 20, verse 2.
Okay. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man, when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Sanctify yourselves, therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your God. And ye shall keep my statutes and do them. I am the Most High which sanctify you. For everyone that curseth his father or mother shall be surely put to death. he hath cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be surely put to death. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion, their blood shall be upon them. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them hath committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. And if man lie with the beast, he shall surely be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach unto any beast and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. And if a man shall lie with the woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he hath discovered her fountain, and she hath uncovered the fountain of her blood, and both of them shall be cut off from among the people. And thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin. They shall bear their iniquity.
Right. So this is now revisiting Leviticus 18 when it mentioned the immorality that these cultures now is retouching that is giving the punishment for breaking these things. So it's covering the same situation. You could let's see how many what chapter you in.
I think I'm there at verse 18, and I think it continues that into 21.
Okay, so let me see. They're not sure matter of the nations, and I will carry before them and committed to these things. And okay, so he's reminding them. Okay, so we went over 21. 21. This is dealing with the priests. Sundry rules for the priests. Okay, so we could just pick it up next week in Leviticus, and it's 7 more chapters probably, and then we'll maybe go into Numbers, and then we got the Deuteronomy. So we'll pick it up next week. So, we gotta rehearse these or touch on these things. We do know we living by grace. So these law clouds is not like for us to be out here like Pharisees and condemning people, but look at this as from two perspectives. A is our culture. B, this is the only few times that God has talking to man. So you think you want to reread these things to maybe you get some wisdom out of these things that it could probably apply today, and it's for our benefit. The reason why the Most High wanted us to make sure we see there was a leper or unclean leper and separate them is for our benefit, because there was probably some disease there that could probably affect everyone else. It could hurt everybody else. So a lot of it, we look at it like, what is the purpose for this? Even linen and mixing cotton and wood and different type of materials had been proven to be toxic or not healthy for the skin, now allowing the skin to breathe. Right. When you mix certain materials. Right? Because even your skin has a shed eventually. You got to let your skin breathe, right? If you wearing certain materials that is not healthy, or a mixture of material, it could, there is some danger there. So a lot of it is just basically proper hygiene that the Most High was looking out for us, that we're looking at it as like, oh, this is stupid. Why is this righteous or wicked? No, it's more like a health thing. It's something more that the Most High was looking out for us, So, So let's have some announcements. What's coming on with Men Going God's Way. Tomorrow is the due date for the exercise. I have to submit tomorrow what I did. If people come short, of course, we're going to be having, we're going to put we'll send a blast email to the brothers, but we'll also put in a Discord what you mentioned last week in our meeting, that we're going to be, if you come short, you have to submit a video once a month, and you got to achieve at least 10% more than what you achieved last time, right? Until you hit your markers, or at least. But most of the guys are doing well. Tomorrow we're not going to do the video or the Zoom. Everybody has to submit the video, right? Okay. So I'm going to submit mine. You ready to submit yours? I know Brother Ahmad, he submitted his, and others. But those that did it, please submit your videos if you haven't. See where you at, so we could keep a track in what you did, and we could keep it there and so forth. So I saw the polos that you're looking to do. They look very nice. For we could be a little more uniform, so we're going to be talking about that as well. So tomorrow's the deadline. I'll if you check your Discord, because I'm going to be dropping information about what's coming down the pipe in the next few weeks. But tomorrow's the deadline for the exercise, July 2nd. So any last words, brother, you want to add before we end the show?
Yeah, I would just say in reference to the lesson is that like America, even the United States of America, you have dietary laws, grocery stores, they have restrictions and fines. In the Bible, the Most High wasn't killing people for violations of the dietary law. At least there's no records of it. When you read any of the records, everything wasn't punishable by death. Even in the United States of America, you have a death penalty for certain crimes. We
got kicked out for a minute. I need to make sure that we are good.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are, let's see, let me switch this over here real quick. Okay, we're good. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just saying, like every culture, every country, they have dietary laws. It changes if you go to different countries. Some things that aren't legal for consumption or for sale. So we're just dealing with the Most High's Constitution.
Yeah, the Most High, because a lot of the laws that and we should eventually have a team, a man going God's way, when we're getting closer to being a more sovereign, organization, or being outside of this thing, especially what's going on with this, Russia and Ukraine and all that, and what they're looking to do. And I don't know if you heard, the whole thing that Donald Trump got in trouble for taking some classified documents from the White House that he declassified, but he took it with him, and he's getting hot water. Do you know it came out what it was?
No, I didn't know that.
It was information. It was basically sensitive information, plans of America going to war with Iran. So,
wow.
A, I want to know why he took that, and B, why we want to go to war with Iran, right? So, America is the aggressor in every war. America is always the one that is looking for an excuse to fight and invade another country, and that's why we have to plan. We got to plan, and if you're not with an organization, if you're not with your wolf pack, if you don't have a group of men that you could trust and you building together and planning, find one. If man going God's way is the one you want to be with, go downstairs to the scripture, go below, send us an email to Man Going God's Way emails, and let's have a conversation. So, so, a lot of these things we have to write down, we have to examine, because we may have to create a committee that will look at these things and how can we apply these sovereign laws, if they're applicable, if they make sense. And even if they're not necessary, we should practice them once we have some form of sovereign community, because we got to rehearse the righteous acts.
Right.
Is important.
Right.
Yeah.
Sir.
So, absolutely. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's all.
Yeah. So great show today, man. Great discussion. We'll be back next week. men that are watching, if you got the deadline tomorrow, please submit your video. 100 squats under 2 minutes, right? And we actually did an amendment. 100 squats under 2 minutes, rest for 30 seconds. You got 2 minutes to do 52 push-ups. If you'll be able to do the 52 push-ups under a minute, you could cross that minute to the chin-ups, because you only have a minute to do a chin-ups. So if you do it under 2 minutes, you could take that extra minute and cross it over to the chin-ups. So, but traditionally is 2 minutes to do 100 squats, rest for 30 seconds. You got 2 minutes to do 52 push-ups, rest for 30 seconds. You got 1 minute to do 20 chin-ups, no rest, a minute planks, meaning you holding your body with your elbows in your floor and your having your knees up for 1 minute. If you're able to do 52 push-ups under a minute and you got that extra minute, you could cross that minute for the chin-ups. You have 2 minutes to do 20 chin-ups. So we even made it easier. So submit your video by tomorrow. Even if you come short, submit it, see where you at. Make sure you put where you at in the Discord. I came short on the legs, or I came short on the chin-ups, or I came short on the push-ups, and then so we know we can mark it, so we could know where you at. So until next time, brothers and sisters, thank you for this show, and thank you for allowing us to come into your living room on the Shabbat. Make sure you pray before the sun goes down, the evening prayer. Shabbat shalom, and peace and blessings.
Shalom.